All right, this is chapter 8 of our book. This is called The Vermicious Nids. I don't even know what those words mean, okay? Oh my goodness me, gasped Mr. Wonka. Oh my sainted pants. Oh my painted ants. Oh my crawling cats. I hope never to see anything like that again. He floated over to the white button and pressed it. The booster rockets fired. The elevator shot forward at such a speed that soon the space hotel was out of sight far behind. But who were those awful creatures? Charlie asked. You mean you didn't know? Cried Mr. Wonka. Well, it's a good thing you didn't. If you'd even the faintest idea of what horrors you're up against, the marrow would have run out of your bones. You'd have been fizzled with fear and glued to the ground. Then they'd have gotten you. You'd have been a cooked cucumber. You'd have been rasped into 1,000 tiny bits, grated like cheese and flocculated alive. They'd have made necklaces from your knuckle bones and bracelets from your teeth. Because those creatures, my dear ignorant boy, are the most brutal, vindictive, venomous, murderous beasts in the entire universe. Here, Mr. Wonka paused and ran the tip of a pink tongue all the way through his lips. Vermicious nids. Or vermicious nids, he cried. That's what they were. He sounded the K, cnids, like that. I thought they were grobes, Charlie said. Those oozy-woozy grobes you were telling the president about? Oh, no, I just made that up to scare the White House, Mr. Wonka answered. But there's nothing made up about vermicious nids, cnids, believe you me. They live, as everybody knows, on the planet Vermis, which is 18,427 million miles away, and they are very, very, very clever brutes indeed. The vermicious cnid can turn itself into a shape it wants. It has no bones. Its body is really one huge muscle, enormously strong, but very stretchy and squishy, like a mixture of rubber and putty with steel wires inside. Normally, it is egg-shaped, but it can just as easily give itself 2 legs like a human or 4 legs like a human, like a horse. It can become as round as a ball or as long as a kite string, from 50 yards away. A fully grown vermicious cnid could stretch out its neck and bite your head off without even getting up. Bite your head off with what? Said Grandma Georgina. I don't see any mouth. Oopsie, sorry, guys. Oops, sorry. They have other things to bite with, said Mr. Wonka darkly. Such as what? Said Grandma Georgina. Ring off, said Mr. Wonka. Your time's up. But listen, everybody. I've just had a funny thought. There was kidding around with the president pretending we were creatures from other planets. And by golly, there actually were creatures from some other planet on board. Do you think there were many, Charlie asked? More than 5 we saw? Thousands, said Mr. Wonka. There are 500 rooms in the space hotel, and there's probably a family of them in every room. Somebody's going to get a nasty shock when they go on board, said Grandpa Joe. They'll be eaten like peanuts, said Mr. Wonka, every one of them. You don't really mean that. Do you, Mr. Wonka? Charlie said. Of course I mean it, said Mr. Wonka. These vermicious cnids are the terror of the universe. They travel through space in great swarms, landing in other stars and planets and destroying everything they find. There used to be some rather nice creatures living on the moon a long time ago. They were called Poozas. But the vermicious cnids are the lot. They did the same on Venus and Mars and many other planets. Why haven't they come to our Earth and eaten us? Charlie asked. Well, they've tried to, Charlie, many times, but they've never made it. You see, all around our Earth, there is a vast envelope of air and gas, and anything hitting that at high speed gets red hot. Space capsules are made of special heat-proof metal, and when they make a re-entry, their speeds are reduced right down to about 2,000 miles an hour. First by retro rockets and then by something called friction. But even so, they get badly scorched. Cnids, which are not heat-proof at all, don't have any retro rockets, get sizzled up completely before they're halfway through. Have you ever seen a shooting star? Lots of them, Charlie said. Actually, they're not shooting stars at all, said Mr. Wonka. They're shooting cnids. They're cnids, trying to enter the Earth's atmosphere at high speed and going up in flames. What rubbish, said Grandma Georgina. You wait, said Mr. Wonka. You may see it happening before the day is over. But they're so fierce and dangerous, Charlie said. Why didn't they eat us up right away in the Space Hotel? Why did they waste time twisting their bodies into letters and writing Scram? Because they're show-offs, Mr. Wonka replied. They're tremendously proud of being able to write like that. But why say Scram when they wanted to catch us and eat us? It's the only word they know, Mr. Wonka said. Look, screamed Grandma Josephine, pointing through the glass. Over there! Before he even looked, Charlie knew exactly what he was going to see. So did the others. They could tell by the high, hysterical note in the old lady's voice. And there it was, cruising effortlessly alongside them. A simple, colossal, vermicious Kined, as thick as a whale, as long as a truck, with the most brutal, vermicious look in his eyes. It was no more than a dozen yards away, egg-shaped, slimy, greenish brown, and one with malevolent red eye. The only one visible, fixed intently upon the people floating inside the great glass elevator. The end has come, screamed Grandma Georgina. He'll eat us all up, cried Mrs. Bucket. In one gulp, said Mr. Bucket. We're done for, Charlie, said Grandpa Joe. Charlie nodded. He couldn't speak or make a sound. His throat was seized up with fright. But this time Mr. Wonka didn't panic. He remained perfectly calm. We'll soon get rid of that, he said, and he pressed 6 buttons all at once, and 6 booster rockets went off simultaneously under the elevator. The elevator leaped forward like a stung horse, faster, faster, but the great, green, greasy Kined kept pace alongside it with no trouble at all. Make it go away, yelled Grandma Georgina. I can't stand it looking at me. Dear lady, said Mr. Wonka, I can't possibly get in here. I don't mind admitting I was a little trifle alarmed back there in the Space Hotel, and with good reason. But here we have nothing to fear. The great glass elevator is shock-proof, waterproof, bomb-proof, bulletproof, and Kined-proof. So just relax and enjoy it. Oh, you Kined, you are vile and vermicious, cried Mr. Wonka. You are slimy and soggy and squishes. But what do we care? Because you can't get in here. So hop it. And don't get ambitious. At this point, the massive Kined outside turned and started cruising away from the elevator. There you are, cried Mr. Wonka, triumphant. It heard me. It's going home. But Mr. Wonka was wrong. When the creature was about 100 yards away, it stopped, hovered for a moment, then went smoothly in reverse, coming back toward the elevator with its rear end, which was the pointed end of the egg now in front. Even going backwards, its acceleration was unbelievable. It was like some monstrous bullet coming to them, and it came so fast nobody had time to even cry out. Crash! It struck the glass elevator with the most enormous bang, and the whole thing shivered and shook. But the glass held, and the Kined bounced off like a rubber ball. What did I tell you? Shouted Mr. Wonka, triumphant. We're safe as sausages in here. Well, he'll have a nasty headache after that, said Grandpa Joe. It's not his head, it's his bottom, said Charlie. Look, Grandpa, there's a big bump coming up on the pointed end where he hid. It's turning black and blue. And so it was. A purple, bruisey bump the size of a small automobile was appearing on the pointed rear end of the giant Kined. Hello, you dirty great beast, cried Mr. Wonka. And there you can see the picture of the Kined hitting the great glass elevator. Hello, you great Kined. Tell us, how do you do? You're a rather strange color today. Your bottom is purple and lavender blue. Should it really be looking that way? Are you not feeling well? Are you going to faint? Is it something we cannot discuss? It must be a very unpleasant complaint, for your fanny's as big as a bus. Let me get you a doctor. I know just the man. For a Kined